Meeting is now called to order. Welcome to this morning's meeting and the final meeting of Youth Service Month. Welcome to our online visitors as well. Our invocation will be done by Rotarian Gwen.
Good morning, all. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. We pray for strength and guidance for each day's duties. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your continued presence with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. The loyal toast, Rotarian Samoan. If Simone is not online, Rotarian Eric, would you bring us the royal toast, please?
To the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
To the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you, Rotarian Eric. Now we'll have welcoming of our guests, visiting Rotarians and Rotaractors by Secretary Donette.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another sunrise meeting. And I'll start with the early bird. First on the block, first in the room this morning, PP Kimmy, all the way from TCI. Welcome, PP Kimmy.
Thank you. Good morning, all.
Yes, and that's Madame Road to Peace. Also, we have a guest. I did send a message because I'm not sure if she's Rotarian or a guest, Keela Barton. Welcome, Keela. Not sure if it's your first meeting, but this is the first I'm seeing your name. Welcome.
Keela is my guest. I met her at Pilgrim Baptist Church volunteering, so she already has the Rotarian spirit.
Oh, awesome. So a guest of Gwen. Okay, great. Welcome, Keela. Hope you enjoy the meeting. And we also have not a first-time visitor, but a recurring visitor, Dr. Ilse Grant Taylor, soon to become a member. Welcome, Dr. Taylor.
Good morning to everybody and welcome.
Morning and welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I think that's it for our visitors. That leaves me to welcome all of you for waking up this morning. We're on the right side. We could have not gotten up this morning. I want to welcome, in particular, Minister Ellsworth. We don't always get to see him because of his schedule, and we're happy to have you here this morning.
Yes, we are.
And that's it. Welcome all. I'm seeing Dr. Eubank Green. Lloyd, welcome.
Pleasant good morning. Pleasant good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I have not seen you in ages. So
Indeed,
welcome to the meeting. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it. I think for now, Madam President, if there are other guests, well, we'll welcome them in the chat room, but have a great meeting. Back to you, President Francis.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Donette. And now we will invite our Sergeant at Arms, Rotarian James, to bring us the jokes and the fines. Thank you.
Morning, Rotarians. Morning, guests. Morning to all. I trust that you all are having a great time, enjoying life. Well, I was looking at the Rotary chat and there's some trash talk in that chat. It was all started by Christina Roll. You would think that, as the old people say, butter can't melt in her mouth, but she obviously put a joke in there that was rather intriguing, and that looked like a $5 joke, Christina. So just make sure you put that in. And then, of course, you drew into the conversation the bad boys, Lavelle and Cress. So they have to be fined as well. And of course, everybody gets fined today. Everybody is happy. So that's a happy $5 for everybody. Just to be alive, just to be around, just to participate in another Rotary meeting. That in itself is great joy. We had 2 birthdays this past week, and I think Lavelle, in his own inimitable style, in his own unique style, sang for the ladies. We are so grateful. Just don't sing for me, please, all right? I'll be all right. Donette and Shavina, you put in an extra $5 for the singing of Lavelle. I guess someone start to rent him out. But in the meantime, thank him for serenading you all, especially since the coffers are now $10 better off because of that. Okay, so moving right along. I see we have Brother Turnquest in the house. Is he around? Is he with us yet? Madam, is that
Not
yet?
yet. Not yet.
Not yet,
Not-
not yet. He's not
Not
online.
yet. Oh, he's not online yet. I have to find him when I see him.
I think
If
he'll
I-
be a little bit late.
A little bit late, as he said one time. Why he asked the question, why was Christ not born in the Bahamas? He said, you couldn't find 3 wise men. And of course, you couldn't find a virgin. But I'll leave that one as it is. I am by my children. And people say, why do you treat your children so well? I say, listen, they're the ones who determine whether I'm going into the old folks' home or not. So I better, I better treat them right. Right, Francis?
I agree.
And of course, as we retire, we have to appreciate some retirement. Jokes. Retirement is the time in your life when you realize time is no longer money. You just have a bunch of time, but no money. Talking about money, money mightn't be everything, Felix, but it surely keeps you in touch with your kids, right? At least they know where to find you. All right. Aging. Some people like to tell you you're aging. Yeah, Felix, you wanted to say something?
No, I have nothing to say.
Yeah. You have nothing to say. Okay. Aging gracefully, they say, is another way of saying you're slowly looking worse. Is Ellsworth on today?
Yes,
Ellsworth
the minister is on.
The minister's on. Oh, okay. Because he wasn't supposed to hear this. I don't approve of political jokes. I've seen too many of them elected to parliament. Anyway, y'all have a good day. Blessings to you all, and enjoy the rest of it.
Thank you, thank you.
Father, you should hear what a preacher told me.
What's that?
You should hear what a preacher told me when I was campaigning. I had to ask if he was a preacher. Didn't know that those things would come out of a preacher. So you was kind this morning.
Yeah, I was kind. We'll catch up. See you on Sunday in church.
Okay, moving right along. Past President Diana, bring us birthdays and anniversaries, please.
VP Darren, I'm not sure if she's
Good
on.
morning, good morning, good morning. A very pleasant good morning. Thank you, Madam President. And we'd like to wish a very happy birthday to a Royal Purple Team member, Shaniva. Happy birthday. May you enjoy many, many more. Thank you.
Thank you too. Announcements. Morning, Kemi.
Good morning.
Any announcements this morning?
Madam President, I'll just use the opportunity to announce the raffle.
Please do.
Yes, and the raffle this morning is a cool, I think it's a mini iPad or a phone. I'm not sure. It looks like a little tablet. And the raffle, of course, as usual, is 1 for $5 and 3 tickets for $10. Let me see if I could bring it up. It's a cool pad. A cool pad. So this is what it looks like. Let me see. Can I go? Cool pad. Can you see that? It's a really cool looking gadget. So please enter your request in the chat. 3 tickets for $10. Just buy $10 tickets. You have more chances to win. You get to win Dino and Cresswell and Felix. All these people are always winning the raffle because they buy multiple tickets. So please, you never know. This may be your lucky morning. Looking forward to seeing your request in the chat.
Okay. I say something? Okay.
Right ahead.
You didn't seem to know what it was, whether it was a tablet or a pill.
I did say it was a cool pad, which is like a mini tablet or tasker. So it may have phone, our prize was donated by our own director, Leon. Maybe he can explain, but it's a cool pad.
Okay. I'm sure it is.
It's a tablet complement of Alive.
Yes, and it can be. Yes.
So it can be a phone and it can be your mini.
Yes.
Leon, that was cool.
Okay.
No, well, the director asked me yesterday for gifts, Felix, and you got where you gotta go.
I'm sure Darren will address that.
That's right.
So you are allowed.
You said it here in a little while.
Father B. You were trying to find Darren. He's presently on now.
He's presently on, so I better watch what I say about him.
Yes.
All right. I just want to thank people who responded rather quickly last week to the appeal I made with respect to the 20th anniversary donations. If the spirit moves you, then I trust that you would continue to contribute. We know that we need it. One time I went to the Jumper Church, that was Leon Church. We need to have a pledge session because they were having a pledge session. And, going around, one fellow said, oh, I donate $50. Another fellow said, 25. Another fellow said, $50. And right then a pile hit him in his head. He said, $500. The ref say, hit him again, Lord. Have a good one.
Thank you, Father P.
You were the co-pastor of my church.
And I want to thank Admin Director Leon once again for those wonderful gifts. We now have gifts to last us for the rest of the year, the Rotary year. So thank you again, Admin Director Leon, for those wonderful gifts and for your generosity and quick thinking yesterday. So thank you. And further to what was said earlier as it relates to the 20th anniversary booklets, they are now at the printers. So for those who have not yet made a donation towards the booklet, kindly do the same. You have another week or so that you can make your donation towards this worthy initiative. So thank you, everyone. Are there any further announcements? There being none, we'll go right into our guest speaker. And we'll ask Youth Service Chair Melanie to introduce our guest speaker, Darren Turnquest, Director of People at BTC. He will speak on the topic Youth Development, our vision, who does it serve? Thank you, Director Melanie.
Good morning, everyone. And it is my pleasure to introduce our final guest speaker for Youth Service Month. And as a reminder, youth service refers to the Fifth Avenue of service of Rotary. It was officially added by Rotary International in 2010 in order to recognize the positive change implemented by youth and young adults through leadership development activities, involvement in community and international service projects, and exchange programs that enrich and foster world peace and cultural understanding. Rotary clubs are committed to involving youth and young adults in their vocational, community, and international service projects and to providing programs and resources that support them. So this morning, our dynamic speaker, Mr. Darren Turnquest, is a Bahamian native celebrated for his distinct ability to inspire, motivate, cultivate, and drive the change process. An accomplished counseling psychologist, public speaker, youth development specialist, and corporate trainer, Mr. Turnquest has proven his ability to galvanize individuals, communities, institutions, and organizations to be the change we want to see. In 2005, Mr. Turnquest received his Bachelor of Science in Psychology with a minor in Political Science from Acadia University in Nova Scotia, Canada. And in 2007, he earned a Master's in Psychology from Anna Maria College in Paxton, Massachusetts. While pursuing his master's degree, Mr. Turnquest worked at numerous institutions for at-risk youth in Boston. After completing his degree and work term in Massachusetts, Mr. Turnquest followed his dream of wanting to return to the Bahamas. No stranger to hard work, and with a strong commitment to service, upon his return home, he served as counseling psychologist at the Bahamas Crisis Center and as the Director of Residential Planning at the Bahamas Institute of Adolescent and Child Mental Health. In 2007, Mr. Turnquest served in a dual capacity as a psychologist and classroom teacher at St. Andrew's School in Nassau. In 2011, he was appointed by the Bahamas Public Service Commission as the youngest person to serve as a director, and since August 2011, has served as Director of Youth within the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture. Among these responsibilities, Mr. Turnquest was selected as the National Co-Chair for Volunteer Bahamas. In 2012, Mr. Turnquest served as the Dean of the CARICOM Secretariat at Technical Resource Network on Youth Affairs, where he completed his term in 2019. In September of 2017, Mr. Turnquest was promoted to the position of Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture until his resignation in 2019. Mr. Turnquest has since held numerous executive leadership roles within the private sector and now serves as the Director of People for BTC. Good morning, Mr. Turnquest.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to say that I'm very, very thankful to have this opportunity. In particular, I'm thankful to have this opportunity because of an experience that I've had early in the week. But I want to say to the president of your club, definitely I hope I have no issues with the Sergeant at Arms and all of your officers, that the discussion about youth development is always critical. And while I have left a particular space, the passion that I have for young people in our country and young people around the world is something that has never left me, will never leave me, and something that I still do. On Tuesday, I had the opportunity to attend court. And currently I sit as a volunteer on the juvenile panel with Magistrate Turnquest. And while I was in court, I sat in front of a young man who had robbed an individual of a jacket. And in robbing the individual of a jacket, we wanted to get a better idea as to why this happened. What was the reason behind this young man doing this robbery? And in questioning him, the first question was, where are your parents? And the where of your parents discussion occurred because he came actually having been locked up by the police, and no parent showed up. Took him to the back of the court so that he can, make a couple telephone calls. No parents showed up. Mom answered the phone, basically rejected his call, and the father never answered, period. He came back and this young man looked as if somebody had taken him out of a puddle of dirt. And in that puddle of dirt, he would have been laying there for a long time based on the amount of dirt that was on him. And the one question that we asked is, where are your parents and where do you live? He said he lives in an abandoned car in front of his uncle's yard. And basically that, he hadn't eaten in 3 days and that he was in a little situation. And so that was the reason why he did the robbery, because he was getting a couple dollars to just buy himself some food. I will tell you, I've been branded as a lot of things in my career. And sometimes people would have branded my passion for youth development work as it relates to my youthful exuberance to get something done. And I often say to people that the work I did, and I think many who are on this call can speak to it. I see Jerry's is on this call and would have worked with me when I was in Acadia University for a short stint. It is the fact that attempting to get a job done that needs to get done because people's lives depend on it means that there is no time, in the words of young people, for slapping up. In other words, it means that whatever you have to get done, you need to get done, because if you don't, there is a kid who's going to be shot. There is a kid who is going to be abused. There is a kid who could potentially have an anger outburst and take somebody's life because there was nobody there to connect with them, make them feel a part, or to make them feel as if they had anything to contribute. And so as I walk away, but still somewhat connected, I ask the question, what is our vision for this country and who does it serve? It is always a pleasure to share my vision concerning young people in the Bahamas, and your theme, or the theme that I have selected to speak to you on, allows me to do just that. My conversation with you this morning is not one that's going to make you comfortable. Actually, in some cases, it might even offend some people. And I simply do not apologize, because at this point, we must speak truth to power, in the words of Elmer Garraway. And so for this meeting, the purpose of our discussion will be around our vision, who does it serve? And my specific comments will be on the topic of vision. When I first was asked to speak on my vision for the Bahamas as relates to young people, I must admit that I was challenged because I have very many sets of visions that I have for young people, many things I'd like to see addressed for young people. And I struggled because I never imagined in my discussion about vision that I've ever heard anyone truly, with any great intent, talk about the vision for young people, the direction for young people, or an actual plan for young people outside of a youth policy that would have been done by young people themselves. And a youth policy that still has yet to be passed before Parliament, because that is a policy in and of itself that is only for young people. Why? Because in this country, I've always felt that we hold the old adage as relates to young people that they ought to be seen and not heard. But when it comes to an agenda for young people, when it comes for the action or the vision of young people, we take that adage even a step further. Young people need not to be seen and need not to be heard. When we talk about a grand vision, we often exclude our personal vision or any acknowledgement as to how a citizen's personal vision fits into a grander vision. So when we think about young people, oftentimes we think that it's not my child, or it's not my grandchild, or it's not my family. And so therefore, when it comes to our vision, it is not aligned with the development of young people across this country to move them to the next step. So in this case, the youth of our nation is not the future of our nation, but rather the present of our nation, and therefore it is everyone's business. So we asked ourselves the question, if our personal vision is not aligned with youth development, and our national vision is not aligned with youth development, then we understand clearly why most of our talented young people choose to remain in Canada, the United States, or London, because they have not been included in any aspect of the vision moving forward for our country, because spaces have not been available to them to allow them to take room in their own countries. We find ourselves searching for a grander vision with only the recognition of our personal vision, and one that never includes youth development as a priority. The truth is, as a country, we've always had a national vision, though we've been attempting over and over to refine it, to rediscover it, and attempting to revitalize it when it's been there all along. I laugh because every time we ask the question, what is the vision for our country? The only words that come to my mind is united in love and service. The challenge we have is that we are none of those things. We are not united as a people. We do not always act out of love. The papers will dictate that. The politics will even dictate that. And our efforts are not based on service. Instead, it is based on self-service, the promotion of self, and especially with the new Insta life, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, where everybody has to talk so much about what they've done. So the true reason about why they would have done it is not because of the purpose of help, but the purpose of them wanting to show somebody that they have done something well with their lives. I remember when I was studying for my master's degree and I was in an ethics class, it says the pursuing of a basic human good can never be pursued by the mere fact that you set out to pursue it. It means that that basic human good should be something that should be innate. So the mere fact that you are doing something because you are saying that you are giving service is not true service. Sometimes we use our movements, we use our service clubs to go into these entities, these group homes, and to go into these youth development areas. And it's only a form of tokenology or tokenism because we use it to put into the Tribune and on our social media sites to say, oh, look how much great work we're doing. But how long does that work last if it's only an activity and not a program? So let's just take a look at three of the killers that I see as a challenge to the development of young people, and more importantly, as a challenge to national development. Education. Are the stakeholders in the education system united in their efforts to educate our children? Do they still love teaching? Is teaching a service to the community or a check at the end of the month? And I draw your attention to the latest incident at GHS. I draw your attention to the latest incident of in-school violence. And what type of resources have we actually lobbied or pressed or pushed the government to assist? How many service organizations are in these schools weekly to support through mentorship programs? And I use this as an example of the late Judge Sininius, who was a part of my life in Gentlemen's Club, who was always present because his idea of service was to do a longitudinal development of young males from the time they hit the beginning of grade 12 out to through the remainder of their life. Social welfare, realizing that all of our major and critical social welfare systems in our country are state agencies, can we practice the vision of unity, love, and service while practicing the attitude of let government help them? And community. And I press on this, where are the civic organizations who are caring for our communities through a unified or calculated, and the operative word there is calculated response simply because they love people and feel an innate desire to service those around us. If we took every one of our clubs and service organizations and we wrap them all in one and we put a strategy collectively together about how we are going to uphold a youth agenda, how we're going to focus on youth, not just for a month, but systemically throughout the entire year of our program and attain it, then we will be able to say that we've had 20% success, or we've seen this amount of young people that have been positively impacted and are making a difference, not for 6 months, but also throughout their entire life. If I can take all of that and put that into a statement of vision for me over the next few years, then I would describe my vision for young people in these words. It is the awareness that it is not the time for a Band-Aid solutions. My vision is never to see the Band-Aid solution, but to see the amputation of a deteriorating limb, even if it means surviving just with the remainder of the limb. Having shared that, I put the question to you. In that context of my vision, who are you? Are you the surgeon? Are you the patient? Or are you the cancer to this nation? Let me break it down. Are you the individual who are able to diagnose the problem? The individual who's able to understand that it is time for the amputation? Are you the patient, meaning that you are the parent or the child itself that is looking for the help or the support because you are simply tired of the experiences that you've had and you've tapped out because there's no father in place, or there's no mother in place, or there's no support in place, or there's no job in place? Or are you the cancer itself, the judgment of those who are in the struggle, the cancer of the judgment who look at every Black boy and girl as a problem, or who looks at them as something that gets in the way, or who sees them because in their eyes they're not old enough to be in a particular place or to be with a particular level of authority? Are you that cancer to this nation? But whichever one you may be, you must be an active participant, an active surgeon, an active patient, or an active cancer. Even if you're the cancer, then identify yourself so that we can know who you are. And when we can address our minds to you, nothing is worse than fighting an unknown enemy. I've served in government for 8 years, and I will tell you that some of the puppet faces and some of the individuals that sit around the table who say that they are for a development agenda are annoyed by the agenda because it does not give them quick results. That individual is a cancer. I've been around where individuals or young men who walk with their hair plait, or young ladies who walk looking a bit jungle-fied, permitted with the same rights as an individual who go to St. Andrews or who goes to one of our private schools because they're judged based on what they have, not what they can potentially have. That is a cancer. The surgeon is the individual who's unapologetic and is willing to cut down and cut out those people no matter what. I had the opportunity in my life to attend 5 a.m. morning meetings with Father Davies. And I see Father Palacios is on, who's also been one of my great defenders when I was in the Anglican Church, where there were people or individuals who felt as though our say needed to be limited as young people, and they would help to open the door. That's the surgeon. And the patient is the individual who's afraid to ask for help. Because if they ask for help, people will make judgments on them that they are not a good enough parent, or they're not a good enough aunt or uncle, or that they are at the bottom tier of society and therefore they are just a burden to the taxpayer. I ask you to put it in context. Now, how does all of this apply within my field, the area of my specialty, my practice, and my passion, the area of youth development? I will tell you, but I will not use my words to explain it. I will use the words of a man who I have the greatest respect for, and it's the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kofi Annan, who said it best. Young people should be at the forefront of global change and innovation. Empowered, they can be key agents for development and peace. If, however, they are left on society's margin, all of us will be impoverished. Let us ensure that all young people have every opportunity to participate fully in the lives of their societies. I have been in hot debates and I've been in great topics of discussion with many individuals in this country who believe that we are perfect, that we are fine, and that this might be an overreaction or an over-exaggeration. Well, let me draw your attention to the amount of Bahamians who are in Canada, who are in the United States, who are even so far as Australia, and one the other day who just told me that they're in the Netherlands and have no intention to come back. Their intention to come back home is not necessarily because they don't wish to return. It's because of the attitudinal approach that many of our adults, our seniors have to what their places should be in our society versus where they know they can be in other societies. A prophet is never welcome in his own home. There is so much to extract from what Mr. Anand has said, but for the sake of time, I briefly want to unpack 2 lines of his quote. Empowered they can be, key agents for development and peace. And if, however, they are left on society's margin, all of us will be impoverished. Empowering young people to be key agents for development and peace is a topic within itself. What is important, however, is that the former Secretary General realized the role that young people play in those 2 critical areas of development and peace, both of what we critically need. And I cannot wait for the election agendas to come in so I can see how, whether we have action or whether we have tokenology. 2 very areas that we face today as a nation is that of development and peace. One need only to take a look at the development need door and its impact on rising youth unemployment, or take a look at our record number of our murder count in the year before last, and the number of youthful offenders and victims that we have going before the courts. Why is this, you may ask? Well, according to the former Secretary General, and based on my practice and experience, it is because we've not engaged young people in the development process. We've not made them key agents or any former agent whatsoever, other than a tokenism, a token or a tokenology approach. Please smile for the cameras. We are making a presentation. I'll give you 1 minute or 30 seconds to ponder. Are you the surgeon? Are you the cancer? Which one are you? The second sentence of the former SG's quote deals with the impact of ignoring our young people, leaving them on the margins of society, much like the young man that I saw in court. My question was, where is the mentorship program? Where is the support program? Where is the additional group homes? Where do we put the wealth, understanding that the maximum capacity of the Simpson Penn School for Boys is 25. Therefore, we have about 50 to 75 young offenders who are sitting in B-docks, which means that if they're sitting in B-docks, where you are is where you're trained. So therefore, we are socially engineering criminals at the age of 16 or 17. My God. But yet, many will attack me to say that I am overreacting when a 15-year-old child who's not reached the fullest level of development, who cannot actually be accused of being fully cognitively developed, is sitting in a nesting space to be taught how to further be a criminal. So what happens when we shut them out? Well, we see it. Every single day we see it. If you simply just go to juvenile court in the court of Turnquest, you will recognize that we have a greater problem than what any media can report, because the reports cannot be put out there simply because they're underage. We have a problem. So for us here, we don't imagine what that impact would be because we're already experiencing it. So let me give you some sober statistics that would have happened a couple of years ago. Over 2,746 young people are raped over a 13-year period, according to police statistics in the Nassau Guardian. The Bahamas Crisis Center reported that in the last 10 years, somewhere between 500 to 600 young people are reportedly abused and neglected each year. A Bahamas Youth Survey report accounted 45% of sexually active girls reported that they were forced or somewhat forced to have sex. No stranger to this. The bus driver systematic issue continues. What have we done? I don't see a sex offender registry. I don't see the fact that that a sensitization or some sort of training or some sort of accountability factor have been put in place to a vexing problem that we know have existed for years. In 2009, juveniles accused of crime increased by 79%, according to the Department of Welfare and Rehabilitation Services. The highest incident of juveniles is possession of a weapon and a firearm at the age of 17, because the gangs identify them because they're under 17, which means that these same young men are placed in positions where they cannot get out of because they live in these areas and basically have no respite, and therefore are utilized by the gangs as gun handlers. So you have 3 gang members and 1 juvenile. The police pull them over. The first person that gets the gun is the juvenile, because the juvenile will be tried as an adult. It is so vexing that you go into the courtroom and every single juvenile has the same lawyer because the gang has sent the lawyer for them. Between 2009 and 2012, some 908 juveniles charged with crimes against the person. Between 2009 and 2012, according to a COB report. And let me add, that does not include non-violent crimes, so the number is relatively higher. Average of 5,000 young people leave high school each year. Only 40% attend some level of tertiary education. Until lately, the government had made a move because the only education that was free to young people, or that was an opportunity for a scholarship, was the education that we culturally glorify. That is the education of becoming a doctor, a lawyer, going to UB. One time ago, you could not even get a scholarship for a TVET education. Thankfully, we have sorted that out and we might be a step closer. But my question is, if we have so many of these young men and young women who are technically able, then have we put the framework or the footwork in place for them to actually actualize their fullest potential from a Maslow's hierarchy of need? Youth unemployment rates stand at a dismal 34%. And I would say the statistics are not out for today, but I am certain that the majority of people who have gotten sent home have been young people. Young people between the age of 18 and 35 have been responsible for over 80% of the murders, Royal Bahamas Police Force crime statistics. 22.7% of secondary school students experience some serious thoughts of suicide, with 15.4% of them making plans to kill themselves, and 10.6% of them admitted to attempting suicide at least once. Bahamas Secondary School drug prevalence survey. This is the Bahamas. Approximately 70% of students use alcohol over their lifetime, with binge drinking on the rise and females slightly surpassing males in the area of consumption. I still don't see individuals being carded in bars, which means that a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old at the leisure of the business owner can simply get an alcoholic beverage. Unacceptable. And the numbers go on and on and on, but for the sake of your morning coffee and your morning breakfast in the privacy of your own homes, I just wanted to sprinkle you with a little bit of these depressing statistics, but not overwhelm you. But at your own liberty, please feel free to send me a note and I'll send you some additional ones. The reality is, while the state of our economy, our tourism product, our ease to do business, our global reputation, our ranking on various international indexes, and the quality of life may be improving, the state of youth in the Bahamas is not. And I cry shame. They often say, if you're serious, scared money don't make no money, and put your money where your mouth is. Well, I can tell you for a fact, I've not seen the money. As you discuss the situation of youth over your last month, I challenge you to imagine where our country could have been today if we had made young people a part of the development agenda in 1973 and continued to have invested in them in a sensible, meaningful investment. I often hear people talk about the old government high school, and it seemed with such pride what was invested into that high school and what was invested into those young people. And I beam with pride because when I hear that somebody went to the government high school, it makes me to remember that there was some intentional aspects about the development of professionals and young people, and an injection of meaningful investment that made some of the best practitioners, the best lawyers, the best doctors, and some of the best Bahamians in the country. And I would go so far as to say around the world right now. But where did that go? I simply do not know. Where Why did it not continue? Is because we selfishly got what we wanted, but we never put back in what we know that we needed to get out in order to sustain the consistent development of the same cadre of people. So I challenge you to remember the many young people we have left on the margins. As we go through our country and we look at those young people who continue to suffer, as we hear the sad stories of abuse and neglect, stories of disenfranchisement, as we look at the youthful faces in the obituaries and read the social media updates of gone missing and murdered and police are in search of, we remember that our latest victim was under 15. We remember that our latest perpetrator was only 15, and that most of the people who are doing the bank lane shuffle are the individuals who we know and we define as youth. As we look at many of the young men and young women now doing the bank lane shuffle, do not for 1 minute fool yourself into believing that the suffering is limited to just them and their families. We must look at the words of the former SG and realize that their impoverishment leads to our impoverishment. Just look around us today. Look at your fear of getting into a vehicle. Look at the fear of having conversations in a parking lot post-meeting or pre-COVID. Look at fear of allowing your daughter or your son to go into a party. That is an impoverished life, not a life that is experienced in Singapore, where there is an intentional plan and process in the development of their people. As I close and you continue your meetings, know that any discussion on national development, and in particular youth development, cannot occur with the absence of the word sustainable. And my discussion about sustainable development cannot be had without first thinking about those whom are most vulnerable amongst you: women, youth, and children. More often, the greatest group of people who are most disrespected, but they are portioned the greatest population of our constituents. Young people, in my last note, before I left government, accounted for 67% of our population. Why is it that they get less than 1% of our budget? But the question must be asked, how a social development agenda has been allowed to progress over the years while excluding women and children, and what will we do about it? So you are here today, many of you in positions of advocacy, many of you in positions of change, many of you who understand the importance of social and human capital development, but have only talked about it, not written about it, have only written about it in some cases, but not argued about it, have not checked people at the doorstep to simply tell them, do better because you know better. My question is, what do you do now? I have a vision. My vision is our vision. I have a vision of walking into my house at night and feeling safe. I have a vision of getting out of my car and not having the fear of being robbed. I have a vision of prisons being such with such low levels of crime that there are low levels of prisoners. I have a vision that visiting our beautiful beaches at night and not looking over my shoulders. I have a vision of qualified teachers who love to teach and have simply not enrolled themselves in an education program because it's an opportunity for a scholarship. I have a vision that students are able to learn both technical and vocational skills. I have a vision that young people are leading in innovation, technology, and creativity. I have a vision of a business community that embraces the placement of young people, or that looks at the utilization of young people in a fair and adequate bidding process. I have a vision of 10 millionaires under the age of 35 and 2 billionaires under the age of 40. I have a vision of Bahamians owning private islands. I have a vision that a 25-year-old can actually make it in the Senate and a House of Assembly sprinkled with youthful experience. I have a vision that I can take my rightful place in this country and not simply be removed by virtue of people's cognitive ability, not able to wrap their heads around the idea of a young person actually climbing the corporate ladder. I have a vision that the next few years will be great, but my vision is nothing unless we are in the business of people, empowerment, and more importantly, youth empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
And thank you for that powerful, insightful, and passionate presentation this morning. And now the floor is open for questions to Mr. Turnquest.
I saw Dr. Eubank Green had a comment. I don't know if he wants to ask the question in person or he wants me to read it from the chat. But if you wish, Dr. Green, you may go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. What a passionate presentation.
Thank you.
I'm ready to go. I wonder if you could comment on the following, please. There is a particular group of people amongst us who will decide that a particular child will be a doctor. And henceforward, well, not necessarily a doctor, but whatever. Henceforward, the child would be addressed as, say, doctor or lawyer or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, that child will do medicine or law or plumbing or whatever. Can you comment on that?
So I'll give you an example. Well, first of all, I was one of those children. Actually, I still have an office that my father purchased for me because I was one of those ones who were called a doctor, and it was a lot of pressure. And I tapped out in 2005 when I graduated, and I gave my father the news during my graduation dinner when he told me that I was all set to move into UWI as my next step. And I still to this day felt a bit of guilt because he paid for a degree that I didn't get, but also it wasn't my passion. While I was also there at Acadia, a young lady was forced to do a degree in business administration, but she was a wonderful artist. She was a dancer and wanted to do ballet at Gilead School, or Juilliard, I can't remember the name of it. And she walked out in much anger and gave her father her degree. She was a good friend of mine, and she says, "This is for you. Now I'll go get the one that I want for me." And her decision was that she wanted to do what she wanted to do. You know, it was business because that's what her father kind of entrenched in her. But as she grew in a different area. But of course, that was a non-negotiable thing for a father who was as wealthy as he was. And I will tell you that we do a disservice to children and to young people when we put those labels on them. Because in this country, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or any of those things, it seems as though you don't have the same currency with your parents, because that's not necessarily with status parents. You know, I worked at St. Andrews for 5 years. That's not, necessarily the best dinner conversation or cocktail conversation. My child is studying art. Well, because of the culture, we don't really glorify that. We don't see that as something amazing and something special. But I often say to parents, let me use John Cox as an example. Let me use Al Pacino Wallace as an example. Let me use Jamal Roll as an example. Your child will be as great as they need to be based on the passion that they have for something, because they could be I know plenty of people with an accounting degree that have no passion for accounts, but that was simply where they were placed. There were so many other things that they wished to do, but couldn't do because they couldn't come home to the pressures of their parents. And so I'm challenged because I'm one of those young people that had to suffer through that throughout my life. Now, my father understands very clearly that I now, in my previous space and in being a DPS in government, I made one salary, but of course, when I signed with government, I made them very well aware that this would not be my only job, because coming from St. Andrews, it could not accommodate the lifestyle that I was accustomed to. So my private work, to which Mr. Williams can tell you a lot about, because I've done it not only for a company that he served in, but I did it for other companies around the country, and by extension, other companies around the region, made me a 6-figure salary comfortably as a psychologist. But we never see the connectivity that your degree is not what drives your money. Your passion for what you do, your ability to be great at what you do, is what drives you to make that money.
Thank you so much.
And I see one of my close mentors is on here. Felix Stubbs would have been the first person I ever worked for as a summer student and has always been a mentor to me from the age of 12 when I was illegally working at IBM because the government sent me there. But it kept me. I've still yet to join the club, but 12 years later, but soon coming.
Sounds good to me.
Yes, it does. Are there any more questions for Darren?
Darren, quick question. Bob Robertson from BTVI. Good to see you again, sir. I really
Hey,
enjoyed.
Bob, how are you?
I enjoyed your presentation. We're actually working on a project to get a diploma in youth at risk for people who train young people. And I'm going to touch base with you offline about that. But my question is about about the undervaluation of technical training, which you talked about briefly. And I think we are seeing a significant shift, not only in the Bahamas, but elsewhere. The state of Tennessee has just announced free tuition for technical training community colleges across the state. The federal government is trying to do the same in the US, but it's taken quite a bit of time. And just as an observation at BTVI, I'm kind of surprised at how many people are coming into the school now who have already got a bachelor's degree, or in some cases a master's degree in business administration. And when you ask them why they're coming back, it's exactly what you say. It's the passion for doing something with their hands, something they've always wanted to do, but they were directed in the wrong way, as you mentioned.
So I have a very good friend of mine, Cara, I can't remember, Cara Gibson, I think. Cara has a master's degree from Barry University, and she attended one of your technical programs, the massage therapy program. And for her most exciting graduation was graduating from BTVI. You know, I look at the aesthetics work that's happening. You look at the beauty hair industry. Listen, a 28 piece and will cost somebody about $250, and to put it in will cost another $300. Some of us are sitting down with our, Hugo Boss suits on and our nice shiny black shoes, and it costs us $300 to put on that suit. And you got that TVET person who has on a pair of scrubs, and they're just doing their work, and they're making that money without having to do all the other things that they're having to do. Look at me. When I sat in the Ministry of Youth, my salary was pathetic. And to think that I went to school with a master's degree to earn $41,750 and dress up in a suit every day and pay $200 to have the suit press every month, I stopped wearing it because I told them I don't get paid enough to dress up. But Bob, I wanted to extend to you because you've done a lot of the work, and I know Felix, who had served as the chairman of BTVI, I remember having some of my conversations about my challenges, and you all have really realized the goal of making sure that a TVET education is accessible, and the power of having a dean of students and having an admissions department to formalize their experience. When you give these young people an ID card for a tertiary education, they now align themselves with a gang. That gang is BTVI because they're going somewhere. If they don't have that, then their next gang is going to be Bozine thugs, or Bozine niggas, or Crack Nation, or one of those. So it's important to give them something that they can align to and feel excited about. I hope none of y'all in here in a gang.
We're in the gang of Rotary.
There you go.
Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome.
Christina, the floor is yours. Kindly ask your question.
Hi. Well, I have a few comments, not really a question.
Okay,
but
ahead.
I only had two little comments, but Darren's comment about people pushing you in certain directions prompted another comment. And while I think that is a real serious issue, and I sympathize with any child that has to go through that with their parents, I want us to be cognizant of the fact that in the Bahamas, I'm not talking about elsewhere in the world, but in the Bahamas, that is mostly an issue of the privileged. And the real issue, and I'll tell a little bit of my story. I went to CC Sweeting, and I went to CC Sweeting in the 80s when it was the big dog house. And the biggest expectation for my life as a straight A student and other things is that I could become a receptionist. And so the real issue is that students in the Bahamas don't have any idea of what the possibilities are for their life. and they're being left behind. And as we focus on youth, we really need to focus on those students who have potential but are being left behind. And so I just want to throw that out there. But on the issue of engagement with young people, so I don't quite agree that young people aren't being engaged or brought to the table. I think that, I mean, personally, I have a lot of young people working for me at the commission, and they are engaged and at the table at some groundbreaking work we do. You know, they're writing legislation. You know, the prime
Which
minister.
commission is this, Christina? Which commission?
The Securities Commission.
Okay, okay.
You know, they're writing legislation, they're writing policy, they're researching that policy. You know, young people in the commission wrote their legislation. They researched that, they benchmarked themselves. You know, the Prime Minister talked yesterday about Invest Bahamas. Young people at the commission laid out all of that work. You know, these are people who are for the most part under 30. So I don't quite agree that they are not engaged. I mean, so maybe they're not getting the attention that they would like to have, or the recognition they would like to have.
No, let's, Christina, let's say not like to have. Let's change that. That's a development language. Let's change that, right?
So what? That they deserve to have?
That they deserve to have, right?
Well, see, we can differ on this issue of deserve, because
that's fine.
The deserve that takes some other things going on in there. But then the other issue, so the other point quickly, because I'm just mindful of time, is the issue of mentorship. You know, as someone who had to build the mentors I have, one of the things that I realized, and I don't think this is a young people issue, this is an older people issue, this is just an issue of how you go about getting mentorship. People who want to have mentors must appreciate that they have to make themselves valuable to someone who they're expecting to give their time, to get their time. I mean, you can't expect, you know, and that Felix is going to be charitable all the time and give up his time, but without getting something of value from that young person. You know, and so young people must appreciate, and I'm not saying that Felix won't be charitable in that way, because he probably is, but I'm saying that young people must appreciate that to develop mentors, you also have to ensure that you're bringing some value to the table. Okay.
I just want to say two things there, Christina, and it's not for the purpose of argument. Your example of the commission is the exception and not the rule in this country. And I say that having served in a senior position responsible for youth affairs in the country, period, it's the exception. And I would wish for those young people to deserve the recognition, not necessarily to be, well, not to be at the front of the table, but to be at the table, but for it to be noted so other young people can be inspired by their work. Because truly, because that story can be told maybe a bit more of our young people will come home because they do feel the door is now opening, right? The other part about mentorship, I will tell you that you still have people like Leon and Felix around. There's a group of people between the age of 35 and between the age of 50 that would have benefited from the Robert Bartlett's and all of these different individuals who have always been in the service industry, who've always been in the uniform organizations. And if you ask the Scouts and the Boys Brigade, where is their help that they're crying for? They will tell you that the same fellas that they supported got rich and switch and have never come back in the community to give back. And that's the challenge. We have the same people doing the same work that did this work years ago, because we got some selfish people out there who simply do not recognize the value of the mentorship that they can now provide, which is the mentorship that they benefited from. And so I agree with you on many of the points. One thing that I'm strong with is that young people deserve not only the seat at the table, but they also deserve to be heard. They have to be seen and they have to be heard, because it gives other young people the opportunity to feel as though they can come up as well. Now, not to mention young people have their challenges, but a mentorship relationship allows them to be maneuvered in a way where they can be checked. And there's a comfortable environment for them to know when they're doing something wrong and right. You can't roll up on a young person and say, you need to do better, unless you have that relationship, unless you've given that investment. And that investment doesn't need to be financial. It needs to be time, and it needs to be the power of the talk and the power of the speak.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Now we'll invite Rotarian Dino to bring the vote of thanks, please.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning, guests. Darren Turnquest, it gives me great pleasure to be able to extend a warm, heartfelt thank you to you for this great, passionate presentation that you have brought to us this morning. As you say, there is no time for slapping up. We need to pull our socks up and get our hands to the grind wheel and do the work of getting the nation agenda to be, or youth agenda to be the nation's agenda. There's so much advancement that can happen in our country if youth are heard and not just seen. Thank you very much for your presentation and the time that you've taken to come out and speak to us this morning.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Excuse my dogs. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you so much.
Well done,
Have a
Darren.
blessed
Thank
day.
you so much.
Thank you.
Now we'll have a
Fantastic
raffle.
presentation, Darren.
Secretary Donat.
Donna, before you do the raffle, Father P, please check the chat. I think Christina's trying to show some authority in disrespecting you.
I have to add that was simply amazing.
Yes,
you
it
have
was.
my vote for Speaker of the Year. I thought no one could top Dr. Newton, but you did.
Okay, I'll check.
Awesome job this
Check
morning.
the chat, and I will deal with her accordingly.
Yes, yes.
All right, so I was so enraptured and captivated by the speaker that I did not complete my slides. Let me see if I could just quickly copy this, and then I have to paste it 2 times because I'm giving each person their 3 tickets. And there we go, we're ready. All right, so for the cool tablet from the Cool Alive, here we go.
Holy moly, look at the competition.
Yes,
I had a
yes.
lady ask me for a cell phone yesterday, so do right on it.
And our winner is
Tyler.
Jerice.
Congratulations, Jerice.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks to all our supporters. Next week, be back for another cool gift from Alive. Thank you.
Yes. Dino, your gift certificate is at my office to be collected from Kern up the road. Still in the office. You may stop by anytime and collect it.
I'll collect it for you, Dino.
Sorry?
I'll collect it for Dino and bring it to him.
Yes, okay, all right. Dino, did you give your consent? Okay.
That's Felix, see, that's okay.
You don't trust me, Dino?
Yes, please.
It's okay, it's you.
Rotarian Therese, maybe have the 4-way test.
Morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair
to all
concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Have a great day. Great presentation to Darren Turnquest.
Thank you, Rotarian Therese. The final toast, Rotarian Lavelle.
Good morning, all. Let us all
Good morning.
raise our glasses in our mouths. And if you're driving, raise your voice. The Rotary around the world.
Rotary around the world. Thank you, everyone, for such an awesome meeting this morning, and have a blessed and safe day. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Green, thanks for visiting all the way from Jamaica. We appreciate
Thank you so much. I
And
enjoyed
from
it thoroughly.
TCI, PP Kimmy, great to have you guys. See you guys again next week. Please come back.
All right, take care.
All right, bye-bye.